Welcome. Today we are discussing and reviewing the Narwhal Original Plus. The Narwhal Pen Company was founded in 2019 by two best friends from high school, apparently, Frank Zheng and Samuel Peng. And they wanted to try to create a fountain pen that would, quote unquote, appeal to the youth, is the story that I read. So they wanted an entry-level pen that looked and performed well. Now, their company is based out of California. However, production is Chinese made. So these are a Chinese pen and they come in at that entry-level price. Let's take a look at this pen. We have a kind of classic looking black pen and acrylic resin, and we have rose gold accents. Over here on the cap band, we've got their branding, Narwhal. Now, Narwhal changed their spelling to what some people say Nahvalur, which is Nahvalur. However, that is Icelandic for narwhal, so it's pronounced the same. So even the new brand, it's pronounced narwhal. That change was in 2022, by the way, when they changed their name. Let's take a look at the cap there. You get some kind of cool facets on the cap, so it's a little bit angular at places. As you go under the hood, you'll see the section here is black, and it's got a good place to, index your fingers with a bit of a flare at the end there. Let's take a look at the nib. The nib has a beautiful engraving on it of a narwhal with some lovely scroll work down the sides. I actually think this is a beautiful nib. I really like the scroll work they did, and that narwhal there is just icing on the cake of this pen. This is a steel nib, even though it's rose gold plated, so it performs as you would expect from a steel nib. It does its job, but it's nothing necessarily to write home about. That said, it's smooth and I've had no issues with this nib. I like the translucent barrel here so you can see how much ink you are rocking. Right now I am using a Monteverde Copper Noir. Let's take a look at that cap again. It's got a nice little inlay of gold up top there. Let's see how many turns we've got. 1, 2. So 2 turns and off. Let's take a look at the pros and the cons of the Narwhal Original Plus. So our pro is the looks. The looks are, kind of old school classy. So they're going for, black and rose gold. I do enjoy this ink window here on this model. And, especially with that nib engraving, the looks of these pens are kind of old school fancy. It evokes kind of a pilot or a sailor, or even a Visconti type look with that kind of simplicity. And the acrylic resin is a nice resin. So a con here would be the nib itself is just stainless steel. So even though the nib is gorgeously engraved here, at the end of the day, it's still a kind of standard stainless steel nib. It is pretty stiff. It doesn't have much bounce. So the actual writing experience, although it flows very nicely and there's no issue, it's nothing to kind of note. But then that goes back to a pro, because that nib is what you would expect on an entry-level pen. So at this price point, I don't expect anything but a stainless steel nib. So on that, the pro is the nib engraving too, because that is above and beyond. And just with the Visconti, I'm going to say the film mech is both a pro and a con. You can't really get in there to clean the barrel, so I really don't advise the use of shimmer. So that limits your ink choices on a pen such as this. However, the film mech is super easy and convenient to do. All right, we are going to show you how to fill and or clean your narwhal. So first we'll go ahead and get the cap out of the way. Next, you are going to unscrew the back component. And then you're going to pull that out. And just in case, I always just do this part over a nice protected area. So then you are going to go ahead and push this mechanism down. And that is going to expel all the ink. Now that also will fill at the same time. So I just emptied what ink was in there. We're going to use water as an example, okay? So we're going to start that process over again. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull that out. Now when I put it in the water and you push it down, that creates the vacuum to suck up the ink. So now you see I've got about half of a fill there. Now a handy trick that I saw was if you kind of pull it back again, and then you kind of gently push up until you see water coming out of the feed, or ink rather, either way. Then our next fill should help fill this up. So now we're going to put it back in, complete the press, give it a moment to suck up more, and that is how you get a greater fill. Otherwise, if you were just cleaning, all you're doing is rinsing this out. Normally I've got like an array of different glasses because you see at this point I'm just recycling inky water back into it, so it's not actually cleaning it. Here you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So if you're actually cleaning it, you would have multiple arrays of water, and then you just keep going around, you know, getting the water everywhere you need to on the inside. But then once this water gets inky, you move to the next one. So then we go over here. Right, make sure you're getting it everywhere. And then when this water gets inky, you would go to the next one. Now normally this is a more drawn out process. The longer you let that water sit in there, the more you're going to get out as far as ink. However, for the purposes of this video, I think that's pretty good. And finally, right, we'll go to our third one. And by that point, you know, your water is running more clear. Conclusions on the Narwhal Original Plus. I think this is a solid entry-level pen here. For the price point, you get what you expect and a little bit more. You do get a nice, convenient, and reliable fill system here. And you get a good capacity with that fill system too. The clip is fine. It's a little bit stiff going into pants. However, it is what it is. And under the hood, you've got a steel nib, but at that price point, that's what you'd expect. And a beautiful engraving actually on that nib. So that was awesome. The fill mechanism kind of limits your choices. I wouldn't use any shimmer on these. But otherwise, this is a solid pen. I would definitely recommend this for someone looking for an entry-level pen. You know, this would be something that I would maybe gift to someone who's going away to college, or, you know, maybe just graduated high school. This would be an excellent entry-level pen to try and get someone into fountain pens. And that ink window is really cool because you can not only see how this whole mechanism works, but you get to see exactly when you're running low on ink. So overall, this is a solid entry-level pen. And this brand does make nicer pens that go up to and around $200 too, with fancier and more pretty resins if that's your style. So give Narwhal a look. Thank you for giving this review a watch, and thank you to the channel sponsor that sent this in for review. A solid entry-level offering from Narwhal.